I always say the news media doesn't like to cover airplanes that land safely. They don't consider that news. They want a big story about something terrible happening. And those things didn't happen in Mississippi. We bore the brunt of the worst natural disaster in American history. It was utter obliteration on the coast. And it wasn't just a coastal calamity. A third of the fatalities happened inland, in the inland counties of the state. We had hurricane force winds north of Meridian. Oktibbeha and Lowndes counties, Columbus and Starkville were declared major disaster areas because of the amount of destruction in those counties, more than 200 miles inland. To see it, and frankly, you had to see it in person to get it, to capture the scale of the destruction, the type of the destruction. You just couldn't get that out of a television camera or a photograph in a newspaper. You had to see it. So as time went on, I thought about this storm, and maybe the 10th anniversary would be the right time to try to write a book about the storm that told the story that not everybody got to see, and virtually nobody got to see enough, because it simply wasn't covered very much. It's a story of strong, resilient, self-reliant people who had the misfortune, whatever you want to call it, to bear the brunt of the worst natural disaster in American history. And Katrina was the worst natural disaster in American history. It's the greatest insurance loss. It was the third deadliest natural disaster in American history. And it barreled right into us. And all of us who grew up around the Gulf South know when a hurricane comes up out of the Gulf from north to south, the worst place to be is in the northeast quadrant, the upper right hand. It's like a boxer's right cross. And of course, Katrina came on shore almost on the Louisiana-Mississippi line, which of course is the Pearl River. And where Mississippi and Louisiana make virtually a 90-degree angle. And it came and pushed all this water that it had been pushing in front of it for days, pushed it all into that corner with 150, 160 mile-an-hour winds, so that while Camille's winds were 200 miles an hour, spawned probably 200 hurricanes, and we thought Camille would be the worst, as bad as a hurricane could be, one of only 3 Category 5 hurricanes to ever come on shore in the United States. And we planned for Katrina, thinking it was the gold standard. Couldn't get worse than Katrina. I mean, Camille, it couldn't get worse than Camille. Well, Katrina was much worse than Camille. As I say, the winds weren't as high, but that wasn't the problem. It was the storm surge. The storm surge was the greatest storm surge ever recorded in the history of meteorology, according to the National Weather Service.